Behold, this is my art leg. It is covered in my doodles. I've logged the process of how I hand poke myself at home, which I do not encourage you to do, but I recognize that I am not the only crust punk little nerd in the world, and other people will be tattooing themselves from home. So I wanted to share the process of all the precautions I take and how I go through this. Tattooing yourself is way more complicated than you might think, and I highly encourage you to get tattoos done by a professional in a professional environment if you want them, especially your first tattoo. Don't give yourself your first tattoo. Please don't do that. But in case you're just curious about this, you can always practice on fake skin and stuff. Today we're working on the back of my leg, and surprise to no one but me, it's not easy to reach the back of your leg. So hello, welcome to my vlog. My name's Madz, this is my leg, on the floor over there is my cat, and we're gonna go over the process of me doing my 15th tattoo. Wait, I gotta count again. I swear, every video I have to count how many tattoos I have. I was present for all of them. I should know how many I have, but yes, there are 15 tattoos on my leg, so I've got like 20 in total. Wee. Today we're gonna be making a pixel art tattoo. Now I will be straightforward. I am not a digital artist. I invested in these tools to try to make this process a little bit faster, and it's sort of a struggle for me. But I'm gonna show you what I did anyway. Besides struggle, mostly struggle. I tried to do this by hand, and it wasn't even, so I turned on the grid that's built into Fresco and used that as a reference. I also made Flash for multiple images from this game. The cursor, some bats, freaking bats, I love Halloween. Some chickens. I should have done one of the cats. Speaking of cats. This is my mental health supervisor. They're just going to be in the background hanging out. You will be seeing them again a lot, and there's nothing you can do about that. If you haven't heard of today's subject matter, it's a video game called Stardew Valley. It sold like 30 million copies. I have played it an excessive amount.
Hello there.
Please don't go ahead and judge me. I judge me. Honestly, just to overshare, the theme of this game is that your grandfather left you a farm. And when this game first came out, I had wanted to play it, but I didn't know that. And my grandfather had just passed. My grandfather who raised me had just passed away. And my then fiance was trying to be supportive, and he's like, here's this sweet little farming simulator game. I think you'll like it. And I boot up the game, and it immediately shows your grandfather on his deathbed. And because I have a dark sense of humor, I just like laughed and laughed. And my ex-fiance was so embarrassed. But anyway, it's a very important game to me, and I play it all the time. It's my absolute comfort game. If you like simple management kind of building type games, I highly suggest it. It's fantastic. It was made by one artist, and he's just been working on it for years and years, and I think that's absolutely inspiring. All right, let's get back on track. So besides investing in digital art to make stencils a little bit more efficient, I also wanted to make stickers because that's rad. I started making some Disney stickers when I worked at a theme park to put on water bottles, but now I'm just kind of making like stick and poke themed ones, personal ones. It's been pretty neat. This is another really fun art project that I highly suggest other people get into. It's so cool to have your own art on stickers. Anything that I want that doesn't exist, I can now make. So 10 out of 10, fun hobby. But just don't invest in Adobe. I don't suggest that. Back to making Flash. So I am going to be adjusting the sheet of Flash several times throughout the video. Just everything's a work in progress until it's not anymore. So we'll just be fiddling with things. We reprint it a lot. Everything, it's an experiment. What I also realized I needed to do was put down like a reference grid so that when it's on my leg, I could remember which box had which value of gray. I didn't want to get confused when I was in the workflow, so sat down and added those little X's and O's to indicate the black boxes versus the gray boxes. Highly suggest doing that if you're going to be doing a pixel tattoo. It makes it a lot easier. When it comes to tattooing, you can do this for like 40, 50 bucks, but over time, I personally have invested in a lot of different materials to make this a lot easier. For example, this printer that prints on carbon paper exclusively. Previously, I used to hand trace every single stencil I made, and it added weeks to every project. So this makes it a lot easier to experiment and play around with. You can get these relatively cheap. I think they sell tiny ones on Amazon. It's just something fun to play with, make temporary tattoos, stuff like that. Besides those materials, we are also going to be discussing different inks that I've used, and I also have picked up a new type of fake skin. It's very thick, and it's got this skin texture to it. I have a lot of opinions about fake skin. In some ways, it's almost better to practice on fruit. Fruit has a curve like a body would. Fake skin lacks moisture. This one in particular has a little bit of give, but at the same time, it's hard to remove a stencil that's fully dried. Speaking of stencils, this is going to be the biggest problem that we have with this tattoo, as we kind of foreshadowed in the beginning. When you put carbon paper down, it starts drying almost immediately. You've got like 10 or 15 minutes before it sets. And in the time it takes me personally to check my stencil, a lot of time it's dried too much. We'll get back to when it comes to skin. On fake skin, it's nice because you can clean it off really quickly. A lot of times, a little bit more stencil stuff will also help loosen it. And as long as you try to remove it in a couple minutes, it's fine. Whenever you use stencil stuff, you give it a minute or two to air dry, and then you use a little bit of pressure to get the carbon to transfer. It's important to practice. Do I do it enough? No. But it's important to practice. What I'm really doing today is testing out this new ink that I just purchased. I am really excited about a pre-mixed gray wash set because when you use a tattoo machine, like something that vibrates, it'll mix your inks up, and it'll keep everything, what's the word for mixed up? It'll keep it mixed up. But when you hand mix your own stuff, it's going to sink to the bottom, and you might not realize that with blacks. We'll come back to mixing inks later. So I decided to try out this brand of pre-made gray washes. I have some opinions about them, but it's going to take some experimentation in the future. I want to believe it's going to make my life a little bit easier, but you'll see in just a minute there's not as huge of a difference between these different inks as I was anticipating. I just really wanted to have a good reference of what each one of these was like. I feel like the extra light is definitely useful, but the mediums and darks are very similar. And how it appears on fake skin might not be as accurate as to how it appears on real skin. While I still had these inks out, I decided to do a little half-size test run of the future tattoo, just to kind of get a feel for it. Again, the stencil doesn't 100% clear off, so it's hard to see the light gray ink through the purple carbon. That's just one of the problems that you have with fake skin. A lot of times I don't feel like I can show off the fake skin after the fact and what I practiced on because you still see the carbon through it and it's hard to differentiate the two. So do I suggest paying $30 for some fake skin? Yeah, probably. You should practice doing all the really boring things like straight lines and just making clean, tight pokes. You don't want to start practicing on yourself. You will get mispokes. I have seen it. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Practice first. Speaking of practice, a lot of people just steal art off the internet, and that's fine. It's the age of piracy. Live your best life. I am full of myself, and I want only my own original art. And so I like to practice just regular drawing. I highly suggest looking up the YouTuber Broken Puppet, who uploads a ton of Tattoo Flash tutorials, so go ahead and follow along with those. Just make sure all of your drivers are updated so you're not like me, and then you don't have access to any of your brushes, because technology doesn't agree with me. I personally am a hands-on, I like to get paint on my hands. I like to just tangibly be able to move things. There's something so incredibly infuriating about digital art. But when it comes to tattooing, it is so invaluable. Yeah, so we need to take a break once in a while. And get frustrated with other projects, because that's how life goes. So this is actually my favorite thing. When I was a kid, did anybody else have this experience when you're a kid and you were only allowed to use watercolors because nobody wanted you to get messy? And using acrylic paint was just the ultimate, the coolest. I've always been obsessed with just acrylic paint to the point that I have anxiety about it still. I'm in my own space. I can do whatever I want, but I get canvas anxiety, so I end up painting on press board that I get at Home Depot instead. And overthink things all the time because adults were like, no, no fun for you. We just don't want to clean up after you. Anyways, I'm an adult now. And by an adult, I mean I'm a 5'10" 10-year-old, and I live my best life playing Stardew Valley and painting giant frogs. Why are you watching this video? Alright, it's fine. Everything's fine. This is fine. I'm fine. Are you fine? I think we're all fine. I really like doing various projects. I kind of wanted to supply a little bit of context for where I've been. I used to try to upload a tattoo vlog once a month, and it's just been a little bit complicated, so I'm kind of sharing a few of the different creative projects I've been working on. I think it's important to point out that if you're interested in tattooing yourself, there's absolutely no rush. I personally love that I have a little tiny community here. I really appreciate everybody who leaves me comments and stuff. And I regularly want to make more videos. Like, I'm more motivated to edit a video and to make a vlog than I actually am to tattoo myself. And I've almost done tattoos in the past for the sake of videos. That is not the point. These are permanent. We all know that. We're all little edgelords, and we're all like, oh, I am only gonna be using this dermis for another decade. Who cares what's on it? But like, this is, you don't make yourself look at something you don't want to look at. So if you're ever not feeling it, just do a different project. It's fine. If you are going to be curling yourself up like a pretzel and poking yourself a lot, please eat first. That's actually something I am not good at. I often forget, especially now that here in Southern California it is summertime and it is hot, and I just don't want to eat ever. But you need to eat, because otherwise you're going to get lightheaded and feel gross and sick and think something terrible is happening with your tattoo. But, you know, eat food, drink water. Hydration is super important. If you ever go to get a professionally done tattoo, please spend the week hydrating. Exfoliate the skin where you're going to get the tattoo. Put moisturizer on it for a week in advance to get it all nice, and make it as easy for your tattoo artist to work with as possible. Now, as you might have noticed, that tattoo was touching another tattoo. All of my fridge magnets are approximately the same distance from each other, so that was my primary goal, was just getting everything spaced well. It took a lot of attempts, and after a while I ended up not really loving the angle at which this tattoo was sitting. Because it's a little pixelated dialogue box, it kind of felt like it should be perfectly perpendicular to the floor, and that's impossible to do by yourself. I had to try about 5 more times before had to try about 5 more times before I realized, and I used any excuse like the cat brushing up against me to just give up and to stop. I'm just like not feeling it. And that's okay. I would just sit down instead and I would kind of go over it a little bit more, think about what I needed to do to feel more comfortable with it. I realized I didn't have a good reference of what my final tattoo was going to look like, so I took one of my flash sheets and I just kind of scribbled on it with some pencil just to decide what the tattoo was going to look like in the future. Again, when you're in the flow state, you don't want to be making any decisions. You want to supply everything for yourself in advance so that it's as easy as possible to stay focused on poking, stretching the skin, etc. Don't make yourself make any choices when you're trying to be creative. And what I mean is big choices. Make fun, creative choices. I've changed my mind mid-tattoo before and switched things up. I don't think you should do that, but it happens, you know. All right, so we tried a bunch of different methods to get this stencil down. It was tedious. And a lot of times within the course of just adjusting it, checking it in mirrors, everything like that, the stencil has basically completely dried. I tried on multiple occasions to scrub it off so that I could reapply a stencil. Obviously, I've got 20 of them printed out. It's not that I don't have enough carbon paper. It's just I don't want to layer multiple sheets of carbon paper over each other and then possibly get confused later on about which one's the real carbon paper. You feel me? You following? I don't know. In order to check it, I will set up my cell phone and I'll put it on a timer or something like that. and then like walk around, try to look at it from different angles. I even like sent these photos to a couple of my friends and I'm like, can you give me some feedback? What do you think about this placement? And what I'm doing is so weird that people are just like, looks great, thumbs up. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's not great feedback. So I don't know, for a really long time, I just was not happy with this placement and decided to just keep trying. Now, there's something else I really wanted to talk about with anybody who would watch this video, basically. And if you would just like to hear about tattooing, I'm going to put a timestamp up here really quick to where I go back and we talk about tattooing. Now I'm going to talk about adjacent topics. Trigger warning. Specifically, a lot of people who tattoo themselves at home have a history of self-harm. It's really not a fun conversation to have, but that goes hand in hand with like mental health and aspects like that. These sort of things really do impact my ability to tattoo myself. I am constantly checking in with myself and trying to make sure that I'm not doing the thank you past self for putting silly sound effects. So I'm trying to be real serious right now. If we could be serious for a minute, self, thank you. Summertime is not great for my mental health. I like to cuddle up with a blanket and a hoodie and all that, and it's just too sweaty to be alive, and it's always tough in the summer. I feel like I get really depressed and I just kind of try to sleep off the hot days, and I know I'm not the only one that can relate to that. Again, I am eternally grateful for cats, and specifically tortoiseshell cats, because they make the greatest nurses in the world. A tortoiseshell cat will rescue me from my depression every time. All cats are great, but these cats, they see the darkness, they understand. And I just kind of wanted to make a comment really quick to this is so uncomfortable. I don't want to call anybody out in particular. A lot of us have visible self-harm scars. A lot of us have history of going in and out of institutions and stuff. And I just want to say that I don't think you should feel ashamed about wanting to tattoo yourself. There is a stigma from outside people in your life when they find out that you're tattooing yourself, and they think it's a way to like disguise your self-harm. I apologize that this is not fun to talk about, but I just wanted to acknowledge that tattooing yourself is valid. It's not the wisest thing you can do in the world, and plenty of people do worse things all of the time. And if you are a person like myself who has ceased self-harming and hasn't replaced it with stick and poke, but needs to consciously acknowledge every single time you do a stick and poke project, your history, who you've been. I just want you guys to know that I see you. I see your Instagram posts. I see you on Reddit. I see you. You're not alone at all. Again, this is just a percentage of people who do tattooing at home. Some people are just tattoo enthusiasts, and that's freaking rad. But for anybody who, struggles and feels that they ostracize themselves even further by doing this stick and poke process, I want to thank you for being here. Thank you, self. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for sticking it out. I know how hard it is. I really, really do. I'm going to stop talking about this now. Okay, had to pause for a second there. I have also thought about doing an entirely separate video about mental health, my mental health journey. I was told by outside people to go to therapy for the longest time. Therapy is a top-down approach where you talk about what caused things. And just to be honest, that doesn't work if you have legitimate trauma. And I personally have spent the last 6 months reading a lot of books on somatic therapy, which is a bottom-up therapy, rather than trying to decide, what happened to me when I was 10. Instead, you assess where in your body you feel the things you feel, you validate them, and you ground them. You push them out of your body, or you relocate them. It's a thing. the way that this relates to my stick and poke vlog is I want to encourage other people to live your best life, whatever that means to you. You don't have to see the world if you don't want to. You don't have to get in the best shape of your life if you don't want to. But if you want to dye your hair green, please, if you have the means, if you have the life circumstances that you can, please do. Although I will tell you really quick, side note, I had purple hair and I would get really nice compliments like on the shade of my hair. And now I have green hair and I'm getting really negative compliments. I don't know what's going on. There's something shocking to people about green hair, and I never thought about it before. This neon hair color is new on the market, and for a while I was dyeing my hair with like UV reactive hair. So I'd be in the club and like people would be staring at me because my hair glows in the dark and they're all drunk. Whatever. But I get harassed by some folks on drugs when I walk around the street sometimes. I don't love that. So I don't know, if you're thinking about dyeing your hair fun colors, I vote purple, not green, unless you just love green. Please live your best life. Please do all the things that make you happy. Please, if you want tattoos, make that happen. Like, express yourself. It's important. So that's what I have been doing in this last year. Last year, 2023, was like a complete my bucket list year, and I was still empty at the end of it. I did a lot of things that I always wanted to do, but I still felt empty. So this year I'm trying really to look inward and focus on myself and focus on what I need, and that's a whole process. It's fascinating. I want to talk about the books I've read, but we're here to talk about tattooing. So that thing that I just built is a caddy for all of my tattoo equipment, hopefully to keep this little fuzzy one off of it. I love her to death, but you know, her paws ain't clean. When's the last time you washed your paws, young fur thing? So I believe in you. I see you. I want you to live your best life because I love you. I really do. Like, I know I may have never met you before, but please believe me that I love you. Because if you're here, then you're like me. Even if you're just hate watching right now, like, you wouldn't be able to sit through my content if you couldn't relate to this to some degree. So, thank you very much for listening. I really, really appreciate you folks. I really do. I just want to encourage more people to make their own art. It's really hard to be an artist nowadays. It's with AI art, with everything that's going on in the world, it's really easy to get discouraged. So in whatever way you can be creative, I think you should. Even if it's doing something taboo, like poking yourself with needles millions of times on your carpeted floor while your cat walks around. Who cares what other people think? As long as you're not hurting anybody, you are awesome. All right, we're back at it. Everybody who followed the timestamp is here with us. And we're gonna do some tattooing. We're gonna get back at it. So during the if you use the timestamp, this creaky metal boy, it's something I picked up at IKEA, and I decided to get a fresh container for keeping all of my tattooing equipment in. Right now I'm gonna wrap it in saran wrap, which big brain, yeah, doesn't help anything. I honestly spent way too long doing this, and then I realized, like, I'm not going to be able to wrap anything in saran wrap because then everything's going to stick to each other. This doesn't work. I am not sure if I'm going to get some, like, foam or stainless steel or something to put in the bottom of this. IKEA sells cutting board things that you can put on top, but I just wanted something that is basically cat resistant to put all of my materials into, and that's a little bit more mobile on days that I do end up poking. Alright, and this video, for once, I waited until like the halfway point before I got super condescending about sanitation. Don't tattoo on carpet. Do as I say, not as I do. This is not clean. I like to put down towels, and I will disinfect everything with rubbing alcohol. Oh, fun fact that I wanted to tell you guys. I often use rubbing alcohol on my electronics, such as my phone and my keyboard and whatever, and that's great. But I must warn you, it's dangerous to go alone. Here, take this vinegar. Yeah, if you clean your mouse or your keyboard with alcohol, you're gonna ruin the top layer of the paint. I did not know that, and I have been doing this for a few years now, and I have ruined my mouse, and it is sticky. So, clean most of everything with rubbing alcohol, but things like electronics, maybe not your phone. I think my phone has been okay, but use vinegar when you're cleaning your computer mouse. Or don't touch your gross ass stuff when you are tattooing yourself at home. Just don't touch it, okay? Okay. Yeah, your phone is really gross. I don't know if you know this. You need to clean your phone. Like a lot. Your phone is disgusting. What are we talking about? Tattooing? Look at that stencil. That's on there pretty clear. Does that look good enough? I don't know. Is today cursed? Yeah, a little bit. But honestly, this day I did not come up with a single solid excuse as to why to not tattoo myself. And I said, fine, this matters to me. I want this to be done. We'll do it live. We'll do it live. And so we did it live. Here's our materials. We're going to come back to that in a little bit because something happened. But, you know, we're going to mix up some inks. I read about this on Reddit and it sounded like a really good idea. I put just a couple drops of white ink in the gray washes just so I could see which was which. I didn't want to accidentally, like, grab the wrong ink and then give myself too dark of spots. I really wanted all these different squares to be different. And originally, I was going to do 3 separate gray washes. I was going to do the inside of the speech bubble as the lightest gray wash. I was going to have the shadows as the medium gray wash, and then everything else was going to be a completely solid black. Plans ended up changing a little bit. You will see why momentarily. In theory, this could have been a one-day project, but we end up taking a break after getting the outline down, and we come back to it about a week later. So everything is fine. I still have my leg. Don't worry about it. Just some mistakes were made, and we're gonna talk about that. But for now, that's me from the future telling you what happens then. I learned this other really cool technique from, I think I was listening to a tattoo vlog podcast thing, and an old school tattoo artist was talking about folding up a piece of paper towel and then wrapping it around your fingers, and you use that to dab off the extra ink. I have struggled in my previous videos. I've gotten multiple comments where people are like, stop soaking your tattoo in green stuff. That's disgusting. And it is. And the reason I used to do that is because I wasn't dabbing the extra ink away and it would sort of dry over a few minutes while I worked on my line. And I would have to soak it to scrub off all the dried ink off the top layer so I could see what was taking and what wasn't. By wrapping the paper towel around my hand, it makes it a little bit easier to just dab as I go and get rid of any excess ink, see what I'm doing. It's overall a more efficient process. So 10 out of 10 habit. Highly encourage other pokers to pick that habit up. All right, and I will not do a Dora Explorer voice right now, but I want to ask you, do you see the problem? Do you? Do you see how red that is? It's not supposed to be that red. So my skin did not like that gray wash. I have a few theories on why that is, but I immediately had to slow down and reassess what I was doing because I have never had my skin react that way to poking before, and I wasn't sure what was causing it. My skin looked angry and like it was sunburned, and I had just started. All I really did was try to get the outline down and then did a little bit more poking to fill in some of those gray spots. I didn't want to lose my stencil, so I got a fresh needle and some black ink. This one's just the 3-round liner for the outline. And I just got my stencil down. That some days that's all you have to do. As you can imagine, this can be a very slow process. So some days I just put the stencil down and I'll come back and I'll fill it in at a later date. But the reason we did that this time, not only because I am folding myself up in the most uncomfortable position ever, but also because my skin was not happy and I needed to assess what was going on and what was causing that redness. This is not okay, and you really need to do your research so you understand the difference between regular irritation from tattooing versus something actually being wrong. When it comes to infections in general, I'd suggest going on Reddit. Reddit's a good place to see infected tattoos. It's disgusting, but it's how you're going to learn things. But if any redness starts spreading at any point, you need to go to urgent care. anytime you're concerned at all about an infection, please go to urgent care. Now, me in the past, I have gone out into the sun the day after getting tattooing myself, and I thought something was wrong with the ink. But in reality, the actual problem was that I got a sunburn on a fresh tattoo. So there's a lot of things, like if you have to be really active at work the day after doing a tattoo, it might irritate it. In this particular case, this was the day of the week I go dancing, so I actually just like wrapped this up and then went dancing and further irritated it. So the next morning, it was not happy looking, but I'm here to show you my process, so do as I say, not as I do. I immediately looked at the ingredients in these two inks, and inks don't make sense. They're made with weird things, so I don't know if it was the ingredients, but here's another problem. The white ink I was using, the expiration date had rubbed off.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
So we just chucked that guy. You don't need that kind of drama in your life. I don't know if the irritation came from the gray wash ink. I don't know if it came from mixing with the white ink. And another embarrassing thing that, shame on me, I should have realized earlier, some of my needles are expired. If you don't know how, look at how sad I am, because I had to go through all of my materials and realize how much of it is expired, and they all had to go into this box, which is the practice tattooing box of shame. And that's like $70 worth of material that I just no longer have access to. But I took a long time off poking, and time passes. So I went down to my local tattoo supply and I picked up some fresh needles. If you're not aware, the way tattoo needles are stored is they put a type of gas into them, into that packaging, and the approximate expiration date is when all of that gas will have leaked. And so it's possible, I don't know if the needles oxidized or something, but it's feasible that the needles were what irritated me and not the ink. Those are my two leading theories. We only are using non-expired needles from here on out. Don't use expired products. Also, please stretch. Another problem I was having after that last time I tattooed, I think I was poking myself for about 2-3 hours. I had the worst neck and back ache. I was like rubbing my neck later and feeling nauseous from getting those knots out. So do a lot of stretching before you hold yourself in a dumb pretzel. I know we're all like ADHD and we have a really hard time doing that, but just some self-care. It's just like eating. You gotta take care of your body so that you can do cool stuff. All right, here we go. It's the final setup. I replaced all the needles that I had picked up a few different sizes. In the past, I've gotten like a dozen different types of needles in 5-packs. I highly suggest just sticking with a few. When it comes to the liners versus shaders, it's a little bit counterintuitive for hand poking. I have found that shaders work better for lining, and I like packing stuff in with a liner over a shader. I don't really know why that is. If anybody has an opinion on that, I'd be really interested to hear what you guys think. But this time around, you can see my setup a little bit easier, so I'm going to show the needle process a little bit slower. In previous editions of this vlog, I have used a little grip that I bought off of Etsy, but that's just over time, it's not sanitary. So every single time I tattoo now, I make a grip. I got these little skewers, and I'll attach them down with medical tape, and then I use some sports flexi tape to make a handle. Stretch it really good while you put it on there, otherwise it's going to slide around. The medical tape also really helps with the grip. I like to look really close at the needle to make sure that nothing's bent, nothing looks funny. You never know, like, what's going to happen with these needles, so always check them out first. And never reuse these materials. I try to open a fresh flexi tape whenever I'm going to actually poke, and then I save the rest of the flexi tape roll for wrapping it up in the bandage afterwards. I used to use different colored flexi tape to more easily differentiate the different sizes of needles. Now I will use a popsicle stick for my filler needles, and I will use the skewer for any liner needles. In this particular case, I set up 2 different sizes of liners just to kind of play with. Very early on, I wanted to use 3-round liners, thinking it was going to be the sharpest thing ever. I still like using them around. I having them around, I tell myself that I'm gonna fill in the corners, get sharp corners with them. They're really tedious for doing line work though. My other liner that I am using today is going to be a 7-round liner, and it's very tight. And honestly, I'll try to show you guys a photo, but they're really pretty similar. They're not too far off. So try using a 7-round liner for your line work over a 3. A 3 does not hold enough ink, and you're constantly having to redip it. And it's all of the internet trolls' favorite part of the video, where my non-binary ass shaves my legs. It's not gonna happen, guys. Just get over it. Again, sanitation is important, and I will take breaks throughout to kind of clean surfaces that I've been touching. I like using Bactine. I kind of used Bactine preemptively this time. It helps keep some of the swelling and red and irritation down, so every once in a while I'll hit it with the Bactine. It was a much smoother process this time to get everything down. Because I used a 3-round liner on the line work, I need to eat something. My vocabulary is lacking. I sincerely apologize. Because I used a 3-round liner on the first line work, it was very gappy. So I used the 7 this time around, and it filled a lot quicker. I don't know why I do that to myself all the time. But we do a lot more breaks as well. Every half an hour or so, I will take a breather. I have struggled in the past with my leg falling entirely asleep. When I did my second tattoo, which was a giant skeleton on the outside of my leg, my entire leg went so numb that I couldn't feel it, and I was concerned for my life when I got back up because I just powered through it. It's hard, but if you hear a little voice in the back of your head going, "Oh, I feel pins and needles," you should probably listen to it, and you should at least wiggle your leg. I personally really struggle with circulation and body pain, so this is a little extreme for me. I don't know if other people have to deal with this, but whatever's wrong with my body, it makes me more flexible, apparently, because I guess it's not normal to be able to reach this back of your calf. Can anyone confirm? I don't really know, but apparently it's really weird. The person that I did the Jinro frog on, they're like, you got the Gumby bends. So that's the joke, is that I bend myself like a Gumby doll so that I can tattoo my leg. I don't know how I'm gonna reach the rest of my leg. I know I have my whole thigh. Trust me, I'm annoyed with myself that I haven't moved on to my thigh yet. I have ambitious plans for like big pieces on my thigh. And I guess I want to practice smaller tattoos more, and I want to work bottom up. But when I did the wizard tattoo, I actually had to remove one of his hands because I literally could not reach it. So flexibility is a struggle. I don't know what's going to happen in the future with the outer portion of this leg, but I'm going to fill up all the gaps that I can reach. And I don't know. Maybe I'll make one of those stamps. Have you seen those horrible stamps where they put like hundreds of needles on a stamp pad and then you just smack it? I'm not going to do that. I wouldn't be able to do that, but here we go. Here's what it looks like now. I've still got some pink from that shading. I did not touch the shadow squares at all. I want to work on it a little bit more, but what's important to me at this point is just finishing the project. I think some of you folks can relate to just completely forgetting about your own projects and never finishing anything. I am the brain type where I have never felt a sense of accomplishment in my life. I was not programmed to feel that way. So I have to force myself to finish a project as soon as possible. Back to tattooing, use sharps containers for your needles. Don't just throw away your needles. You will stab your garbage man, and that is not nice. They are a nice person just trying to live their life. If you don't have a sharps container, use it out of a thick container, like a laundry container or a vinegar container. My beloved vinegar. Clean up after yourself, yo. Hey, this is my tattoo that I did. This was a number 15. Guys, thank you so much for your support on this leg project. This is so crazy. And honestly, your support means everything to me. There are a few things in my life that I get as positive of feedback as I do from this. So I'm really excited to be back at it. I'm going to let Aki edit this video for me. I'm going to go play some Stardew Valley. I'll see you guys in the next video. It might be sumo themed. It might be a mermaid. It might be this cat. We'll see. All right, peace, y'all.
You good?